The sound of shattering crystal reverberated through the vast dining room. Olivia Reed stood frozen, champagne soaking into the hem of her black cocktail dress, fragments of baccarat glittering around her feet like fallen stars. Across the 14-foot mahogany table, her husband Marcus stared at her, his expression transitioning from shock to disgust. "You turned it down? A partnership at Blackridge?" Marcus's voice was dangerously quiet. "For what? Your little charity projects?" The 20 dinner guests, mostly Marcus's colleagues and their spouses, shifted uncomfortably in their seats, eyes darting between the couple. The Italian chandelier above cast shadows that hollowed Marcus's handsome face, transforming him into something almost skeletal. Olivia felt a strange calm settle over her. 5 years of marriage, and she'd never seen him so transparently furious. Not when she'd miscarried their child 2 years ago. Not when she'd taken 3 months off work to care for her dying father. But refusing a promotion that would have made her income match his? That was unforgivable. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I should have discussed it with you first." Marcus's laugh was brittle. "Discussed? There's nothing to discuss. You know what I think about women who don't pull their weight." The silence that followed was absolute. Someone cleared their throat. Olivia became acutely aware of the weight of her grandmother's keys in her clutch purse. The keys to this house that Marcus believed belonged to his in-laws, who graciously let them live here. The keys to a truth she'd kept hidden since before they'd met. "Perhaps," she said, placing her napkin beside her untouched salmon, "we should continue this conversation in private." "Why bother?" Marcus drained his whiskey. "Everyone here knows what I believe. I've always said I couldn't live with a woman who earned less than what she's capable of. It's about ambition, standards." Olivia felt something shift inside her, like tectonic plates realigning. She rose slowly from her chair, aware of every eye following her movement. "Then perhaps," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands, "you should find somewhere else to live." 3 years earlier. The first time Olivia brought Marcus to Everston Manor, she watched his face carefully. The wrought iron gates swung open automatically, revealing the long, tree-lined driveway that curved toward the Georgian-style mansion. Built in 1924 and renovated extensively in 2008, the estate sprawled across 6 acres of manicured gardens with a view of the lake beyond. "Jesus," Marcus whispered, his BMW slowing to a crawl as they approached. "Your parents actually live here?" Olivia smiled tightly. "My mother did, yes. After the divorce, my father moved to the city. And they're okay with us staying here while they're in Europe?" She nodded, the lie settling like a stone in her stomach. "Of course. The place is too big for them now that I've moved out. They like knowing it's being looked after." In reality, Olivia's mother had never set foot in Everston Manor. Margaret Chen Reed had died when Olivia was 16, leaving her only child the estate that had been in her family for generations. Olivia's father, a professor of economics, had remarried and moved to Boston. Her grandmother, the formidable Amelia Chen, had made her fortune in shipping and real estate in the 1960s, breaking barriers as one of the few women, and Chinese-American women, at that, in the industry. The house was Olivia's. Every brick, every rosebush, every creaking floorboard. But she'd never told Marcus. Their romance had been a whirlwind. They'd met at a fundraiser for the women's shelter where Olivia volunteered. Marcus, with his sharp suits and sharper mind, had captivated her. A rising star at Taylor & Finch Investment Group, he spoke passionately about economic mobility and meritocracy. He'd grown up in near poverty, worked his way through college on scholarships, and now commanded respect in rooms filled with old money. "You've got to understand," he'd told her on their 3rd date. "I fought for everything I have. Nothing was handed to me. That's why I value ambition so highly." Olivia had nodded, understanding completely. She too had worked hard, graduating from Brown, building her career in nonprofit management, currently directing a foundation that supported arts education in underserved communities. Her salary was respectable but modest compared to his. What she hadn't mentioned was the trust fund that had paid for her education. The investment portfolio that generated more annual income than either of their salaries. The properties, including Everston Manor, that had come to her upon her grandmother's death. At first, the omission seemed harmless. She wanted Marcus to love her for who she was, not what she owned. And he did love her, fiercely, passionately. He proposed after 8 months with a diamond ring that she knew had cost him 3 months' salary. She'd accepted with tears in her eyes, genuinely moved by his gesture. But as they planned their future, she began noticing his fixation on financial equality in relationships. "I could never be with someone who didn't match my drive," he'd say. "My father resented my mother for out-earning him. Destroyed their marriage. Then I watched my sister waste her potential to please her husband. Pathetic." Olivia found herself hesitating to correct his assumptions about her finances. And then they were married, and the right moment never seemed to arrive. Now, as Marcus parked in front of Everston Manor, his eyes wide with appreciation, she wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. "Your family must be loaded," he said. Not unkindly, as he helped her with her bags. "I had no idea. Old money," she said vaguely. "Most of it's tied up in the house and family foundations. Not much liquid cash." This wasn't entirely untrue. The bulk of her grandmother's estate had indeed gone to charitable foundations, with Olivia serving as board chair for 3 of them. "Well," Marcus grinned, squeezing her hand. "Good thing you married a man who can take care of you then, huh?" Olivia smiled weakly. "Yes, very fortunate." They settled into Everston as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Marcus took the primary suite with its view of the gardens, converted the library into his home office, and spoke with authority about when we renovate the kitchen. Olivia watched it all with a growing sense of unease. "Your parents shouldn't be spending money on a house this size if they're never here," he commented one evening over dinner. "They should sell it, invest the capital. I could help them structure something tax-efficient." "I'll mention it to them," Olivia murmured. She maintained the fiction through elaborate means. Faked phone calls to her mother while Marcus was in earshot. A dedicated phone with a separate number for house-related emergencies. Occasional mentions of her parents' extended travels. Marcus, consumed with his work and their social ascent, asked few questions. 2 years into their marriage, Olivia's foundation launched a major initiative bringing arts education to rural communities. The project consumed her. Long hours, weekend work, constant travel. Marcus was supportive at first, proud to have a wife doing meaningful work. But when Blackridge Foundation, a prestigious organization with ties to major corporations, approached her about a senior director position with nearly double her salary, his attitude shifted. "It's a no-brainer," he insisted over dinner at their favorite restaurant. "More money, more prestige, better connections for both of us." Olivia toyed with her pasta. "But their focus is much broader. I'd be overseeing grant programs in areas where I have no expertise. So you'll learn," Marcus said dismissively. "That's what ambitious people do. I love what I'm doing now. The Rural Arts Initiative is making real impact. And you can continue supporting that as a donor," he countered. "With a Blackridge salary, you could personally fund 3 of those little programs." Olivia bristled at his dismissive tone, but kept her expression neutral. "I'll think about it." In the following weeks, the Blackridge offer became Marcus's obsession. He left articles about the foundation on her desk, mentioned their executive director's achievements at dinner parties, even arranged a lunch with a board member without telling her. "I'm trying to help you," he said when she confronted him. "Sometimes I think you don't understand how the world works." "Or maybe I understand it differently," she replied. His expression had darkened then. "Don't tell me you're becoming one of those women who settles for less. Is that what you think of me?" "I married you because you had drive, Olivia. Because you weren't afraid of success." He softened, taking her hands. "I just want you to reach your potential." That night, alone in her study while Marcus slept, Olivia logged into her private banking portal. Her personal wealth, even excluding the value of Everston Manor, was significantly greater than what Marcus had accumulated through his self-made success. The realization made her stomach clench. She'd kept her inheritance secret initially because she wanted authentic love. Then because she feared his reaction to her deception. Now, watching him push her toward a career she didn't want simply to match some arbitrary financial benchmark he'd set, she wondered if there was something darker at work. Did her husband truly respect her? Or was she just an accessory in his narrative of success, the accomplished wife who needed to earn enough to justify her place at his side? The Blackridge offer remained open, and Marcus's pressure intensified. When Olivia mentioned expanding her current program instead, he scoffed openly. "When are you going to grow up? Playing with finger paints in farm towns isn't a career." They were at breakfast, sunlight streaming through the 12-foot windows of Everston's morning room. Olivia set down her coffee cup with deliberate care. "I've built an organization that brings opportunity to thousands of children who would otherwise have none," she said quietly. "How is that not meaningful work?" "Meaningful doesn't pay the bills," Marcus retorted, then caught himself. "Look, I know your parents help us out with this place. I'm grateful. But don't you want to stand on your own 2 feet? The irony nearly made her laugh. Instead, she stood up, smoothing her skirt. "I need to go. I have a board meeting at 10. As she walked away, Marcus called after her. "Blackridge wants an answer by Friday. Just think about our future, okay?" Olivia paused at the doorway. "I think about it every day." The dinner party had been Marcus's idea. "Let's celebrate your decision," he'd said, assuming she'd accept the Blackridge position. When Olivia tried to tell him she was still considering, he'd already invited his colleagues, including several who had connections to Blackridge. She'd spent the day in turmoil, weighing her options. By evening, as guests began arriving, she'd made her decision. She would decline the offer and finally tell Marcus the truth about her finances. About Everston Manor, about everything. But the moment never came. Marcus dominated the conversation, speaking proudly about my wife's exciting new role, as if it were already settled. Each time Olivia tried to interject, he smoothly talked over her. Finally, as dessert was being served, Marcus raised his glass. "A toast to Olivia, soon to be senior director at Blackridge Foundation. I always said I couldn't live with a woman who didn't strive for excellence." The guests laughed appreciatively. Olivia felt her cheeks burn. "Actually," she said, her voice cutting through the chatter, "I've decided to decline the offer." The silence that followed, and Marcus's explosive reaction, had led to the shattered champagne flute and her final declaration. "Perhaps you should find somewhere else to live, now." As their stunned guests filed awkwardly out the door with mumbled goodbyes, Marcus paced the foyer like a caged animal. "Have you lost your mind?" he hissed once they were alone. "You humiliated me in front of everyone who matters." "And humiliated you?" Olivia leaned against the grand staircase, suddenly exhausted. "You announced a decision I hadn't made, Marcus. You've been pressuring me for weeks about a job I never wanted." "Because it's the right move." He ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair. "God, Olivia, do you have any idea how hard I've worked to get us here? The sacrifices I've made. And you just, what? Want to throw it away to finger paint with farm kids?" Something inside Olivia snapped. "You don't get to decide what matters to me. And you certainly don't get to treat me like I'm failing some test of worthiness because my career choices don't align with your vision. It's not about my vision. It's about your potential. Your future. Our future." He gestured wildly at the soaring ceilings, the marble floors, the crystal chandelier. "You think we can keep living like this on your nonprofit salary? Your parents won't subsidize us forever." Olivia took a deep breath. "Marcus, there's something you should know." "Save it," he cut her off. "I'm not having this conversation while you're being irrational. I'm going to the club. Don't wait up." The front door slammed behind him with such force that the antique mirror in the hallway trembled on its hooks. Olivia stood motionless in the vast entryway, listening to the silence settle around her like dust. Then, with deliberate steps, she walked to her private study, the one room in the house Marcus rarely entered, and unlocked the bottom drawer of her desk. Inside lay a thick folder containing documents she'd kept hidden for years. The deed to Everston Manor in her name, bank statements showing her substantial personal accounts, investment portfolios worth millions, her position as trustee for the Chen Family Foundation with its $40 million endowment. For hours, she sat reviewing these papers, reconstructing the elaborate deception she'd maintained. Not just from Marcus, but from herself, the fiction that her marriage was equal, honest, built on mutual respect rather than carefully curated appearances. By dawn, Olivia had made her decision. She called her assistant to cancel her meetings, then phoned her attorney, Eleanor Wu, who had managed her grandmother's estate. "I need to make some changes," Olivia said when Eleanor answered. "How soon can you come to Everston?" "Is everything all right?" Eleanor asked, concern evident in her voice. "No," Olivia replied honestly. "But it will be." Eleanor arrived by noon. They sat in the garden room, papers spread across the antique tea table as Olivia explained what she needed. "You're sure about this?" Eleanor asked when Olivia finished. "It's significant." "I've never been more certain," Olivia said. "How long will it take?" "To draw up the papers?" "A day or two." "But Olivia," Eleanor hesitated. "Have you considered just telling him the truth?" Olivia gazed out at the garden where spring tulips were beginning to bloom. "The truth wouldn't solve the real problem. He believes I'm not enough as I am. That's not something money can fix." Marcus returned late that night, slightly drunk but conciliatory. He slid into bed beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist. "I'm sorry about the scene at dinner," he murmured against her hair. "I just want what's best for us." Olivia lay still, eyes open in the darkness. "I know you think you do. Let's talk about it tomorrow, okay?" With clear heads. "Yes," she agreed. "Tomorrow." But when morning came, Marcus found only a note on her pillow. "Meeting with the foundation board all day. We'll talk tonight." Instead, Olivia spent the day with Eleanor, finalizing her plans. By evening, everything was in place. She returned home to find Marcus in his study, laptop open, phone pressed to his ear. "I don't care what it takes," he was saying. "My wife will be accepting the position." "Yes, I understand the deadline was yesterday. Look, I personally guaranteed to Phillips that she'd be on board." "Fine. Tomorrow. She'll call tomorrow." He looked up, startled as Olivia cleared her throat from the doorway. "I need to call you back," he said hurriedly, ending the call. His smile was strained. "Hey, you're home. How was your meeting?" "Productive," Olivia replied. "We should talk." "Absolutely." He stood, straightening his tie, still dressed for the office despite the late hour. "Listen, about Blackridge. Let's talk in the main sitting room," she interrupted. "I've asked Diane to serve dinner there." Marcus frowned. "The sitting room? Why not the dining room? I think we'll be more comfortable there." "Please, Marcus." He followed her, visibly confused. The sitting room, with its silk damask walls and antique Aubusson carpet, was typically reserved for formal entertaining. Now, an intimate table for two had been set before the marble fireplace. Candles flickered in silver holders. "What's all this?" Marcus asked, bemused. "Sit." Olivia gestured to a chair. "Would you like wine?" "Sure." He lowered himself slowly. "Olivia, what's going on? Is this about yesterday? Because I want to apologize." "This is about us," she said, pouring him a glass of his favorite Bordeaux. "About who we are together and who we are separately." Diane, their housekeeper of 20 years, who had known Olivia since she was a child, appeared silently with the first course, then disappeared. "I've been thinking about what you said," Olivia continued once they were alone, "about pulling my weight. About living here." Marcus relaxed visibly. "I shouldn't have put it that way. I know your parents are generous with us and your work is important. I just think, this house doesn't belong to my parents," Olivia interrupted softly. "It never did." Marcus paused, fork halfway to his mouth. "What? Everston Manor belongs to me? It always has. My grandmother left it to me when I was 22. The fork clattered against fine china as Marcus set it down. "That's... What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Olivia continued in the same measured tone, that I own this house, and the guest house, and the land it sits on. I also own an apartment in the city, commercial property downtown, and a vacation home in Montauk. Marcus stared at her, his expression cycling through confusion, disbelief, and the beginnings of anger. That's impossible. You would have told me. Would I? Olivia met his gaze steadily. When would have been the right time? When you were telling me how you could never respect a woman who earned less. Or perhaps when you were explaining how my work lacks ambition. This isn't funny, Olivia. It's not meant to be. She reached into the drawer of the side table and removed a folder, sliding it across to him. These are the property deeds, bank statements, investment portfolios, my full financial disclosure. Marcus opened the folder, his hands slightly unsteady. As he scanned the documents, his face drained of color. You're worth more than you, yes, Olivia finished for him. Significantly more. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the ticking of the antique clock on the mantel. Finally, Marcus looked up, his expression hardened. Why didn't you tell me? All this time you've been lying to me. Yes, Olivia admitted. I have. At first, I wanted to be sure you loved me, not my money. Then, I was afraid of how you'd react to the deception. Eventually, I realized there was something deeper at work. What's that supposed to mean? You measure a person's worth by their earning potential, Marcus. You've made that abundantly clear. I wanted to believe you valued me for who I am, not what I contribute financially. But I've watched you dismiss my work, pressure me into a career I don't want, all to satisfy some arbitrary standard of success. Marcus pushed away from the table, standing abruptly. So this was what? Some kind of test? To see if I was a gold digger? No, Olivia remained seated, her composure intact. It became an unintentional window into your character. And what I saw concerned me deeply. My character? Marcus laughed incredulously. You've been lying our entire relationship and you're questioning my character? I lied about money, Olivia agreed. You lied about loving me for who I am. The words hung in the air between them, weighted with 3 years of accumulated truth. Marcus paced to the window, then back. This is insane. You can't just spring this on me and expect… What? What do you want from me, Olivia? I want you to understand something fundamental, she said, rising to face him. My worth isn't determined by my salary. My career choices aren't valid only if they come with the right paycheck. And a partnership that hinges on financial equality isn't a partnership at all. It's a transaction. That's not fair, Marcus protested. I pushed you because I believed in you. No, Olivia shook her head sadly. You pushed me because my success as you defined it reflected on you, because a wife who earned less somehow diminished your own accomplishments. Marcus's jaw tightened. You don't understand what it's like to come from nothing. Perhaps not, she conceded. But I understand what it's like to be valued conditionally. And I won't live that way anymore. So that's it? Marcus demanded, his voice rising. You reveal your secret fortune and expect me to what? Apologize? Grovel? Leave? I expect you to see the truth, Olivia replied. Not just about my finances, but about us. About the fundamental imbalance in how we view each other. Marcus slammed his hand down on the table, making the crystal shake. The imbalance is that you've been lying to me for our entire marriage. How am I supposed to trust anything you say now? That's a fair question, Olivia acknowledged. I've been asking myself the same thing about you. About me? Marcus scoffed. I've been transparent from day one. Have you? You told me you valued my intelligence, my compassion, my dedication to making a difference. But when those qualities led me to choose a path different from what you wanted, they suddenly weren't enough. This isn't about your career. This is about you deliberately deceiving me. You're right. I did deceive you, and that was wrong, Olivia admitted. But ask yourself this, why did I feel I needed to? What does it say about the environment you created that I believed revealing my true financial situation would fundamentally change how you saw me? Marcus ran his hands through his hair, visibly struggling to process everything. This is absurd. You're trying to make me the villain when you're the one who's been lying all along. We can both be wrong, Marcus. My deception was a mistake. But your conditional acceptance, the constant implication that I needed to earn more to be worthy of your respect, that wasn't a mistake. That was your value system. He stared at her, his expression hardening. So what now? You've had your dramatic revelation. What exactly do you want? Olivia took a deep breath. I want a separation. The words hung in the air between them. A separation, Marcus repeated flatly. Yes, I've prepared the paperwork. Eleanor has it ready for your review. Eleanor? Your mother's lawyer? His eyes narrowed. How long have you been planning this? Since you made it clear that my worth to you was tied to my income, Olivia replied. Since I realized that no matter what I achieved, it would never be enough unless it came with the right salary. Marcus laughed bitterly. This is rich, literally. You hide millions from me, then paint me as the materialistic one. I'm not saying I was right to hide my finances, Olivia said. But consider this. If I had told you about my inheritance when we first met, would you have pushed me so hard to take jobs I didn't want? Would you have respected my choice to work in nonprofit? Of course I would have. This isn't about the money. Then what was last night about? Why did my declining Blackridge cause such a violent reaction? Because you're throwing away an opportunity. Marcus exploded. Because you could be so much more than what you're settling for. By whose standards? Olivia challenged. Yours? Society's? I'm running a foundation that brings arts education to children who would otherwise never experience it. We've expanded to 37 rural communities. We've helped launch careers for dozens of young artists. In what world is that settling? Marcus fell silent, his jaw working. The truth, Olivia continued quietly, is that you've never fully seen or valued the work I do. You've tolerated it as a quaint passion project. Something to keep me occupied until I grew up and pursued what you consider real success. That's not true, he protested. But his voice lacked conviction, isn't it? Think about how you describe my work to your colleagues. Olivia's little charity. Her art programs for underprivileged kids. Always with that slight tone of condescension. Marcus moved to the sidebar and poured himself a scotch, his back to her. When he turned, his expression had shifted from anger to calculation. Fine. You've made your point. I should have been more supportive of your career choices. I can change. The sudden pivot made Olivia pause. Can you? Of course. His tone softened, became almost conciliatory. Look, this has been a shock. Finding out about your finances, about the house. I need time to process it. But that doesn't mean our marriage is over. He moved toward her, taking her hand. We can work through this. I can be more understanding about your career choices. Now that I know about your financial situation, there's no pressure. You can do whatever makes you happy. The words were right, but something in his eyes, a calculating gleam, made Olivia withdraw her hand. That's exactly the problem, she said. Now that you know I'm wealthy, suddenly my career choices are valid. Suddenly, you're willing to let me pursue my passion. Don't you see how conditional your respect is? Marcus's expression hardened again. You're twisting everything I say. No, I'm finally seeing it clearly. Olivia stepped back. Your support, your respect, even your love, they all come with conditions. Meet Marcus's standards of success, or be found wanting. That's not fair, isn't it? You literally said, in front of all our friends, that you couldn't live with a woman who earned less than what she's capable of. Those were your exact words. I was upset. People say things they don't mean when they're angry. Except you've been saying variations of that our entire relationship, Olivia countered. It wasn't a heat-of-the-moment slip. It was a glimpse into your core beliefs. Marcus drained his scotch and slammed the glass down. So that's it? You've made up your mind? 3 years of marriage thrown away because of one fight? Not one fight, Olivia said softly. One revelation among many. A pattern I can no longer ignore. She moved to the fireplace, resting her hand on the cool marble. The separation papers are with Eleanor. They're fair, more than fair. You'll receive a generous settlement. Marcus's laugh was ugly. So you're buying me off? No. I'm recognizing that we've built a life together, regardless of how it's ending. You'll have financial security, a place to live, everything you need to start over. How magnanimous of you, he sneered. The wealthy heiress, dispensing charity to her poor, misguided husband. Olivia flinched but held her ground. That's not what this is, and you know it. Do I? You've hidden who you really are for years. How would I know anything about you? You know the parts that should have mattered, Olivia said quietly. My values, my passions, my heart. You just decided they weren't enough. Marcus stared at her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. When he spoke again, his voice was cold. You think you've got it all figured out, don't you? The moral high ground. Poor Olivia, trapped in a marriage with a man who pushed her to succeed. He stepped closer, his eyes hard. Did it ever occur to you that maybe, just maybe, I pushed you because I saw something in you that you were too afraid to see in yourself? That I wanted more for you than fundraising galas and finger painting with farm kids? Don't, Olivia warned. Don't try to reframe your control as concern. It wasn't control. It was ambition, drive. The things that separate exceptional people from mediocre ones. And there it is, Olivia said softly. In your world, I'm either exceptional on your terms or mediocre. There's no space for me to define success for myself. Marcus threw up his hands. This is pointless. You've clearly made up your mind. Yes, Olivia agreed. I have. He glared at her, then suddenly laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. God, the irony. All this time, I thought I married someone who shared my values, my drive. Instead, I got a trust fund princess playing at having a career. The words stung, as he'd intended them to. But Olivia refused to show it. I'll be staying at the city apartment tonight, she said evenly. You can have time to process everything. Diane will help if you need anything. Oh, I'm sure she will, Marcus sneered. I assume she's been in on this charade the whole time? Everyone laughing behind my back at the clueless husband? No one has been laughing, Marcus. This isn't a game or a prank. It's our lives. He stared at her, searching her face for something. Weakness, perhaps, or doubt. Finding neither, he shook his head. Fine. Go. Run away to your secret apartment that I didn't know existed. I'll be here when you come to your senses. Olivia picked up her purse, feeling strangely light despite the heaviness of the moment. Eleanor will contact you tomorrow about the papers. As she turned to leave, Marcus called after her. You know what your problem is, Olivia? You're afraid. Afraid of pushing yourself. Afraid of real success. Afraid of becoming everything you could be. And you're using me, my so-called conditional love, as an excuse to keep playing small. Olivia paused at the doorway, considering his words. Then she turned back to face him one last time. No, Marcus. My problem was believing I needed your approval to be complete. I don't. Not anymore. With that, she walked out, the sound of her heels echoing on the marble floor like a final punctuation mark. 6 months later. The gallery buzzed with conversation and the gentle clinking of champagne glasses. Olivia moved through the crowd, stopping occasionally to chat with guests or answer questions about the exhibited artwork. Pieces created by students from her foundation's Rural Arts Initiative. The show, titled Unseen America, had attracted critics, collectors, and philanthropists from across the country. 3 pieces had already sold for substantial sums, the proceeds going directly to scholarships for the young artists. Ms. Reed? Olivia turned to find a young woman in a carefully pressed blazer holding a notebook. I'm Sophia Mendez from Art Forum. Could I ask you a few questions about the Foundation's expansion plans? Of course, Olivia smiled. Though I should warn you, once I start talking about our next phase, it's hard to get me to stop, Sophia laughed. That's exactly what I'm hoping for. As they found a quiet corner, Olivia caught sight of a familiar figure entering the gallery. Marcus, looking thinner but impeccably dressed as always, paused at the entrance, scanning the room until his eyes found hers. She had not seen him since the day she'd left Everston Manor 6 months ago. Their communication had been handled entirely through attorneys. The divorce was nearly final. Excuse me, Olivia murmured to Sophia. Could we continue this in a few minutes? Sophia followed her gaze and nodded knowingly. Of course. Take your time. Olivia crossed the room toward Marcus, aware of curious glances from those who recognized them both. When she reached him, she was surprised by how calm she felt. Marcus, I didn't expect to see you here. I wasn't planning to come, he admitted. But then I saw the write-up in the Times. Revolutionary approach to arts education, visionary leadership. Quite the accolades, Olivia shrugged slightly. The students did the hard work. I just created the opportunity. An awkward silence fell between them. You look well, Marcus finally said. Thank you. So do you. He glanced around the gallery, taking in the vibrant artwork, the engaged crowd. This is impressive, truly. Something in his tone, a genuine respect that had been missing before, made Olivia pause. Thank you. Eleanor sent the final papers yesterday, he said after another moment. I've signed them, I know. I got the notification. Marcus nodded, then reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small envelope. I wanted to give you this in person. Olivia hesitated before accepting it. What is it? Something I should have given you a long time ago. She opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a single key, the key to Everston Manor. I moved out last week, Marcus explained. Found a place downtown? You didn't have to leave, Olivia said, surprised by the gesture. The settlement gives you the right to stay for… I know what it says, he interrupted gently. But it didn't feel right. The house is yours. It always was. Olivia looked up at him, searching his face. Thank you. Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable with her gratitude. It's what I should have done months ago. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history hanging between them. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Marcus finally said. About what you said. About conditional respect. Olivia waited, not wanting to interrupt whatever difficult admission he was working toward. You were right, he continued. Not about everything, but about enough. I did measure people, measure you, by standards that weren't fair. That weren't even my own, really, but inherited from my father, from his bitterness about my mother's success. That must have been a difficult realization, Olivia said quietly. It was. Is. Marcus looked around the gallery again. Seeing all this, what you've built, the lives you're changing, it's made me reconsider what success really looks like. Olivia felt a complicated emotion rise within her. Not quite forgiveness, but perhaps understanding. We all have our blind spots, Marcus. I had mine too. Your deception, you mean? A hint of the old bitterness crept into his voice. Yes, I should have trusted you with the truth from the beginning. My fear created a foundation of dishonesty that undermined everything else. Marcus nodded slowly. Maybe we were both right and both wrong. Maybe, Olivia agreed. A comfortable silence settled between them, not the charged silence of their confrontation 6 months ago, but something more peaceful, like the quiet after a storm. I should let you get back to your guests, Marcus finally said. I just wanted to return the key, and to see for myself what you've accomplished here. I appreciate that. He turned to go, then hesitated. The Foundation's expansion, the one the reporter mentioned, is that the national initiative you always talked about? Olivia smiled, surprised he remembered. Yes, 30 new locations across the country by next year. That's remarkable. His smile was genuine. You always said it was possible. I should have believed you. It's not too late to believe in things that seem impossible, Olivia said softly. Marcus held her gaze for a moment, something unspoken passing between them. Then he nodded. Goodbye, Olivia. Goodbye, Marcus. She watched him walk away, feeling not sadness but a sense of completion, of a circle closing properly. Sophia appeared at her elbow. Everything okay? Olivia turned to her with a smile, tucking the key into her pocket. Yes, everything is exactly as it should be. Later that evening, as the last guests departed and the gallery staff began closing up, Olivia found herself standing before one particular painting, A landscape by 16-year-old Javier Garcia from a small farming community in Nebraska. The canvas depicted a vast wheat field at sunset, golden light transforming the ordinary into something magical. Eleanor joined her, handing her a glass of champagne. To a successful evening, they clinked glasses. And to many more, Olivia added. I saw Marcus earlier, Eleanor remarked casually. That must have been interesting. It was, Olivia admitted. He's changed. Or maybe he's starting to. People can surprise you, Eleanor said. Sometimes even in good ways, Olivia smiled, studying the painting before them. He returned the key to Everston. Ah, a symbolic gesture. Yes, but a meaningful one. Eleanor sipped her champagne thoughtfully. So what's next? Now that the divorce is almost final, the foundation is thriving. What does Olivia Reed want? Olivia considered the question, feeling the weight of the key in her pocket, not as a burden, but as a possibility. I want to keep building, she said finally. Not just the foundation, but a life that's authentically mine. No more hiding who I am or what I value. No more seeking validation from others for choices that are mine alone to make. Sounds like a worthy project, Eleanor smiled. Though I suspect you've already begun. Olivia nodded, her eyes still on Javier's painting, the ordinary field transformed by light and perspective into something extraordinary. Yes, she agreed. I believe I have. As they prepared to leave, Olivia took one last look around the gallery, at the art created by students who had been given an opportunity to express their unique voices, at the space she had created where those voices could be heard. She thought about Everston Manor, standing empty now, waiting for her to return and reclaim it fully as her own. The deception that had begun her marriage was over. The conditional love that had sustained it was gone. What remained was a woman who finally understood her own worth, not measured in dollars or status or others' approval, but in the authenticity of her choices and the impact of her work. Outside, the city glittered under a clear night sky. Olivia took a deep breath of the cool air, feeling lighter than she had in years. Ready to go? Eleanor asked, holding the door of the waiting car. Olivia smiled. Yes, I'm ready. For the first time in longer than she could remember, those words felt entirely true.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.